My first live mock draft of the year will play more like a podcast because it's live. I usually prefer doing my mocks on the Draft Network. They don't have it up and running at this point, and they haven't for a while. Not really sure what's going on there. So we are on profootballnetwork.com. And this is going to be more like a podcast in a way. We're going to go through these picks. But there's so much controversy regarding all of these different quarterbacks. And that's kind of the subject of today's mock draft. Because some teams will not consider drafting Bryce Young because he's too small. And it's not even just height, it's weight. Kyler Murray, who's a little bit shorter, is built way more sturdily, if you will. So injury, although it's a concern, it's less of a concern. Bryce Young is just not a big guy. You worry about durability. Some teams, for that reason alone, will have him off their draft board. He won't meet their measurables. CJ Stroud has his detractors. You worry about overall arm strength. Yeah, he can make all the throws involving touch and placement. Accuracy is great, but hasn't performed all that well under pressure, and you worry about his top-end arm strength for some of those tight window throws, but we've seen Tua get a lot of success this season despite not having that top-tier velocity. So CJ Stroud could be QB1 on a lot of boards. Anthony Richardson has the best combination of size, speed, and arm strength in the entire draft. That being said, he's a one-year starter at Florida, and had his ups and downs this year, certainly. Will Levis, kind of like the next step down from Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, in terms of having a pretty big arm, fairly mobile, good mechanically. Wasn't that great for Kentucky this past season. Hendon Hooker, best stats of any quarterback here, but stats don't matter in terms of college to NFL evaluation. Hendon Hooker is super old, as is Will Levis, but Hendon Hooker is going to be 26 during his rookie season, I think, and is coming off an ACL tear. Bo Nix is going to be pretty tough to draft considering he didn't declare he's going back to Oregon. But yeah, it's tough with the quarterback. So I want to go ahead and look at this from a different perspective and say, what if the Texans don't decide to take a quarterback? What if Bryce Young is not someone that they would consider? What if CJ Stroud is not? We're going to go defense, and that is Will Anderson Jr., and Jalen Carter's great too. And the Bears obviously don't need a quarterback, so this kind of throws a wrench into things. Would a team consider moving up to number 2 in order to take one of these first quarterbacks? We're going to hold off. We're going to give the Bears Jalen Carter. It is an obvious trade down spot, but the thing is, in order to trade down, you need a team willing to trade up, not really the other way around, because you don't have any leverage. If you're like, yeah, we'll trade down, it's like, well, if a team doesn't want to move up for a player, they're comfortable where they are, you're not going to find anybody to trade down with you. So I don't know that the Bears will be able to trade down if the board ends up falling like this, but it's possible that they do. Quarterback will always be in high demand, but I've gone quarterback at number 1 overall a lot this year, and probably at number 2 prior to the Bears owning that pick. So we're going to go different. Back-to-back defensive players off the board. Texans go best player available. The Bears' pass rush is putrid. Jalen Carter fits the bill. Seahawks at 3 is where this really starts to get interesting, because quarterback could be in play. I'm not sure that it will be, but it could be. The fact that both QBs are on the board in this spot, I say both. I think Young and CJ Stroud will be the top 2. Do you take a quarterback with how well Geno Smith has played? And he's not all that old. I'm not sure you do. You have multiple first-round picks. Pick at 15. This is the Broncos' first-round pick at 3. Do you have to take a quarterback? You don't have to, but you could. We, again, are going to go a different direction. And I think we're going to take an edge rusher. In my opinion, the top 2 are going to be Myles Murphy and Tyree Wilson. I've gone Tyree Wilson ahead of Myles Murphy. I'm going to go Myles Murphy ahead of Tyree Wilson this time. And the Seattle Seahawks improve on the edge. I do like some pieces that they have, Uchenna Nwosu, but I don't overall love their defense. Boye Mafe is a project. Myles Murphy is a plug and play. He is very, very good. And that brings up the Cardinals, picking higher than I think anyone would have expected. And I didn't think they'd be good this year. I thought they'd miss the playoffs. I didn't think they'd be top 5 worst team in the NFL record-wise. So that's pretty incredible. And when you look at their team, I think this would probably be an offensive lineman. When you consider like expiring contracts and when you consider just the overall positional value, which you have to consider in the draft, I think offensive line is probably the most likely position here, but it also very, very easily could be corner and especially edge. So we have a bit of a decision to make. I think I'm going to go offense, and I think I'm going to go offensive tackle, and I'm going to go with Peter Skoronski. He won the Outland Trophy, which is weird to me because it's an award for interior linemen on both sides of the ball. And tackles have won in the past, and a tackle won this year, Peter Skoronski. It's not an exterior lineman award. You won't see an edge winning it. I don't know why they give it to tackles. I don't really understand it at all. But Peter Skoronski is really good. The only thing you're going to get problem-wise is, as my voice left me for a minute, didn't crack, just kind of disappeared. But the problem with this is that Skoronski has small arms. And we know, same thing with Bryce Young. Teams are just not going to consider him because he has shorter arms. Although, we saw Rashawn Slater with slightly longer arms than Skoronski, still short by the usual definition, be an all-pro as a rookie. He was incredible. So, I'm not really sure what team's going to value what. So, I don't really know. But I know Skoronski is really, really good. And I think could certainly go and be the first tackle off the board. Lions at 5. They don't have to take a quarterback either. That's the thing. We're not doing any trades in this mock draft. And even though you have Jared Goff, who is he's not great. I know he's played okay against terrible teams lately. Didn't really do much against the Jets, which is a good defense. You can get away with Jared Goff being your starter for another year. Here's my counter to that, though, is that the Lions are good now. They are on the rise. They have won 6 out of their last 7 games, and this is not their pick. This is the Lions' pick at 18. If you think the Lions are on the rise as much as they seem to be, and you're drafting, you're the GM, Brad Holmes of the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, you might not think you're going to be picking this high again. So you might go quarterback, and we're going to go Bryce Young. I think he's the best QB in the draft, and in a weird scenario where these quarterbacks fall and no trades happen, Bryce Young slips to 5, which I think is reasonable considering the concerns, and the Lions take him. He's cheaper than Jared Goff. You don't have to extend Jared Goff, and you don't have to start Bryce Young right away. Feels like a pretty good situation. And then the Colts at 6 could also take a quarterback here. I think tackle is certainly a need, but quarterback is so bad for them, and CJ Stroud feels like he'd be a pretty good pick for the Colts here, and we will take him at 6. Kind of an interesting mock draft. The Colts continue to be terrible. I don't think Jeff Saturday is going to be employed next season by the Colts. Certainly possible that they retain him, but I kind of doubt it. And then Falcons at 7. This could not have worked out better for them because Tyree Wilson is available. Brian Brzee is available. And I get a lot of questions about Brian Brzee. Why would you take him? He is not productive. His stats are bad, but it's not about stats, especially not on the defensive line. Brzee is someone who can generate pressure on the interior. Has dealt with a couple different personal things this year, an injury, and he's still been a very good player on a very good defensive line, although Myles Murphy probably the best of the bunch. And I think that he would be a great pick for the Falcons. I think it's edge or defensive tackle if I were them. Receiver could be in play too. But for the longest time, where I've had the Falcons at like 13, 14 in the draft, we have not been in position to take Brian Brzee, and I feel like he or Jalen Carter is their best case scenario, and they can finally take Brian Brzee. So I think he's going to end up being a top 10 player in the class. He goes here at number 7. And it might seem early to some, but he's a very good player. And getting a defensive tackle, an interior defensive lineman that can actually rush the passer is a rarity. It really is. And for the Falcons, I would say that's arguably their biggest need. Getting someone that can make a difference on the inside alongside Grady Jarrett and Brian Brzee fits the bill. Edge also in play. Tyree Wilson I think would be tough to pass on, but in this case we go with the interior player because it is a little bit easier to find edge rushers that can rush the passer than it is a defensive tackle that can rush the passer. And now the Panthers pick at number 8. Could this be a quarterback? They've been linked a little bit to Will Levis. They have been. Quarterback, certainly a need for that team. They're not a quarterback away per se, but I don't think they're as far as it seemed. Will Levis is a bit of a project. but he's also older. Anthony Richardson's definitely a project, is younger, has a lot of tools. This is interesting. If not quarterback, where would we go? It could be receiver. Probably wouldn't be at the top of the list for me. What does Pro Football Network list as their team needs? Quarterback, offensive guard. I don't really agree with guard. Linebacker, corner, wide receiver. Certainly reasonable. Certainly reasonable. You know, I don't know what I would do here. I can't get out of this. I'm stuck. Why am I stuck here? Let me exit full screen. Dude, how do we get out of this? There's this white bar here. If I refresh, it's going to take everything away. Please, please let me close it. Please. Got to refresh and lose everything. God, dude. But we are back, and I am going to go quarterback. It's just such a valuable position. But this time, we are going to make the probable most highly criticized move of the draft, and that's taking the super, super high ceiling Anthony Richardson. He is so fast, such a big arm. I mean, it's ridiculous. He has no help at Florida. He's looked a lot better than the stats would say, especially the second half of the season. You got to remember, this guy's a one-year starter. It could end up blowing up in your face, but if Anthony Richardson turns into, you know, one of the more exciting quarterbacks in the league, it would not surprise me. He has kind of like a somewhat similar profile to Justin Fields. So I think the Bears are pretty happy with how that's going right now, even though he's not, you know, lighting the world on fire. He's been a really, really fun and exciting player, especially on the ground. And if you develop an offense around Anthony Richardson in the way that the Bears have done with Justin Fields this year under Matt Eberflus, you could end up seeing similar results. He is a freak athlete. At number 9, the Eagles should not be picking here, man, but the Saints just, it is what it is. I am probably going to go corner here, considering we have every corner on the board available. The Eagles have a top 10 pick. It's ridiculous considering they have the best record in football. And James Bradbury, I think, is going to be a free agent. Darius Slay is great, but the fact that Christian Gonzalez is going to be draftable by the Eagles in this scenario, it's ridiculous. Right now, to me, he's the best corner in the draft. It would be an unbelievable pick by the Eagles. I'm a Giants fan. That's why I have visible frustration. But it seems like it'd be a pretty good pickup for him. And then we get to the Packers at 10. I know it should be a receiver. We have all the receivers on the board. The Packers have shown they don't want to take receivers. They don't. Pretty good draft in terms of receiver talent. Maybe no one in that top upper echelon. I don't think Quentin Johnson's going to go this high. Don't think Jordan Addison's going to go this high. It could. From what I'm hearing, it seems like maybe receiver sneaks into the top end of top half of the first round, but more likely they're probably beyond. So I think I'd probably expect them to go a different direction. Now, the top interior players are off the board. Their run defense has been bad. Linebacker certainly could be a need. Don't really think it'd be in consideration at this point. Maybe like round 3. I know they took Quay Walker in the first pretty recently, but the run defense has to get considerably better if they're going to be a good NFL team. But I think the secondary has also struggled this year, and with every corner except Christian Gonzalez still available, we are going to go with one, and that's going to be Cam Smith from South Carolina. Ringo's a great athlete. But the Raiders are picking at 11, and they need a pass rush so bad. Tyree Wilson's available. I'm not really going to think about this too much. I usually have them going Brian Brzee because their interior pass rush is abysmal, but they also need help on the edge. I know he made an incredible play in real life today as Jacoby Myers just tossed him the ball and he ran into the end zone after a stiff arm of Mac Jones. But their pass rush needs to be better. Max Crosby's a beast. Who else? Tyree Wilson, super productive, but also fits the height, weight, speed, freak, length with the arms. Edge profile we've seen lately. Trayvon Walker went at number 1 overall. Tyree Wilson probably ends up going even higher than this, in my opinion. We'll see. Jags at 12. They took last year's Tyree Wilson in a way, although Walker was more of a freak, in my opinion. It's just, agility at that point. Like Tyree Wilson, great, But Trayvon Walker's ability to move in space for someone of his size is just simply absurd. And at number 12, I've seen a lot of receiver here. I've heard about receiver. I don't know that they need receiver. Zay Jones is good. You're getting Calvin Ridley next season. Quentin Johnston, I think, would be a really good fit. But I struggle with the Jags because I think their offensive line is just not as good as it needs to be in order to protect Trevor Lawrence. And he's really starting to come on strong. It's important now more than ever to protect him. And I think with Paris Johnson being available at number 12, we are going to go in that direction. Texans back up at number 13. It's best player available, probably. This, I think, could be the first true receiver spot. I think there's an outside shot. They just go Bijan Robinson. That could be kind of fun. But Bijan, I don't know. I think he will go higher than I've had him mocked in any draft. But I just don't know who the team's going to be that takes him. Because every time you do these mock drafts, it's tough. Because nobody wants running back first round. It's super unpopular at this point. But they can be difference makers. And Bijan is one of the better running back prospects we've seen, probably since Saquon Barkley in 2018. And now Nick Chubb is the best running back from that class. But Barkley was the better prospect, if you're kind of getting what I'm saying there. I don't know. Texans in a weird spot. I could see so many different things because the team is just not that great. Will Anderson is a franchise difference maker. Really, really is. So where else do you go? Tackle's not in a bad spot. Guard is coming along. Could take a guard later. The Texans are really just best player available. Trenton Simpson would be fun. Just getting a really good defensive player that can fly around the field and make plays. At the same time, they need receiver. I'm going to go receiver. Brandon Cooks wanted to be traded. Didn't end up happening. I do like Nico Collins, but we're going to take a true separator, and that is USC's Jordan Addison. Won the Biletnikoff a year ago at Pitt. Who won it this year? I think it was Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. He could probably end up being a first-round pick as well. And we get to the Steelers here at 14. It's going to be a tackle for me. Going to be a tackle. Now, we know they love to take running back over tackle in the first round, so we could go Bijan here. But we're going to go tackle. We're finally going to invest in a top-tier tackle, and Georgia's Broderick Jones makes a ton of sense to me. I think there's a good chance he could be the first tackle off the board. Super young, super talented. Only a true one-year starter at Georgia, but was good at the tail end of last year when he got in the playoffs, and certainly been good this year. I think he's going to be a top pick in the draft. Seahawks back up, though. Went with Myles Murphy at 3, and here we are at 15. I mean, the world is the Seahawks' oyster at this point. So many good players still available, and so what do we want to do? What do we want to do? This could be receiver. Lockett, Metcalf, great. You could definitely use a third, especially with Lockett getting up there in age. He's about 29, 30. His play style, I think, is going to really continue, though, into his 30s. So it's not really a huge need, but a third one is never really a bad idea, especially in the modern offense, although the Seahawks really love to just pound the rock. Not going to go running back. Could go defense again. I've done it before, but man, I love the fit every time. I'm going Trenton Simpson. Versatile linebacker for Clemson. Can play outside, can play inside. Great speed. Plays really fast downhill. I like Trenton Simpson a lot. I think he's good value here at 15. Patriots at 16. I think I've had them taking Trenton Simpson before too. Patriots could use a receiver. Patriots could certainly use a tackle. Their offensive line needs to be improved. I know injuries have hurt. It could even be a tight end here. Go with the old 3 tight end sets. Get Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, and then Michael Mayer. No, won't be a tight end. Could be a receiver, though. But we are going to go tackle. It's a glaring need for them. Best one available could be DeJuan Jones. I mean, we saw how good Trent Brown's been for them, and he's a larger-than-life human being. So is DeJuan Jones. Plays right tackle for Ohio State. And I think will end up being a first-round pick. And here he goes at 16 to the Patriots. I just think it's a good fit for a team that really, really needs help at the position. And then the Jets are up at 17. Lower than we've seen them pick in quite some time. for their actual first-round pick. Of course, they ended up with a pick around this area not too long ago. They traded up. They got AVT at like 13-ish. Traded back into the first round for Jermaine Johnson as well. Had the Seahawks first-round picks for a couple of years. I think I'm going to continue to give them tackles until I feel otherwise. They just need it so bad. Who is the best one available? Darnell Wright did not allow a sack for Tennessee this past season. Right now, I just struggle to see many of these guys getting into the first round. You could honestly make an argument that Cody Moak could be the next tackle off the board. 17 feels a touch high, especially when I think Trevor Penning was a better FCS prospect. He's a ton of fun, though. Jets at 17. Let's go with a pure pass protector. That's Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. Feels high. Feels high. But tackles are flying off the board, and we're just playing the game. Every team needs a tackle, and there are only so many tackles to go around. Lions back up at 18. Took Bryce Young at 5. What a fit that is. They could use pass rush. Could be a corner. In fact, maybe most likely will be a corner. Joey Porter's pretty sweet. Keely Ringo's still available. I think at 18, the value for Ringo, just with his upside, too good to pass on. They only have Jeff Okudah on roster next year, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of free agents, including Amani Oruwariye, who I think has taken a step back this season. Ringo could be a fun pick at 18. Kind of a different but similar player to Jeff Okudah, where physical, can get beat, press man at the line. But where Jeff Okudah really didn't have the recovery speed, Ringo does. So it will be interesting to see his development. At number 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Still tough. This could be a corner. This could be a bunch of different things. It really could be. Clark Phillips is great. Joey Porter is great. They have so many different needs, man, despite having, no needs. It's weird with the Bucs. I don't even know if that makes sense, but they have expiring contracts and aging players that kind of add a bunch of different problems. I'm going to do a really weird surprise pick here, and I am going to go quarterback. We're going to go Will Levis. At 19, I think maybe you take a chance on him. Again, big arm, pro-style QB, pretty mobile. You might lose Tom Brady. He is a free agent this year. He could retire. He could go elsewhere. You need a quarterback. Kyle Trask is not the guy. Will Levis falls in your lap at 19. I think it's worth taking a chance on because he is, mechanically sound. That's probably something you're going to hear a lot of the draft season, but, he's good. Feet, same direction as the eyes. Follow through with the arm. Makes everything a little bit more consistent. I really don't think he's had the team around him at Kentucky this year, but I'm also not convinced he's a perfect quarterback prospect, obviously. At 20, Tennessee Titans. Receiver, certainly in play. I really would love to give them Bijan. I think Osiris Torrance also makes a ton of sense. Their power run. Could be a tackle even, but the board doesn't fall favorably for them. Quentin Johnson here at 20 will be the guy we take. The fact that he's made it this far, I think you would pull the trigger. Big body, but is a pretty good route runner too. Route tree is not the most advanced, but does separate at a pretty good rate for a big guy, and certainly has great contested catch ability. Feels like a really good fit for the Tennessee Titans. I would say think of like a souped up Nick Westbrook-Akine. So Quentin Johnson to me is a pretty good fit at 20. Commanders at 21. Corner is certainly the pick. I know I've given them a corner every time. Every mock draft they get a corner. It's just, how do you not? They need it. They need corner badly. They could also use offensive line. I just don't think the board has fallen favorably for them. Maybe Osiris Torrance if you want to guard, but we are going to go corner. It's going to be Joey Porter Jr., the Penn State big-bodied corner, son of Joey Porter, obviously, the former edge rusher for the Steelers, Dolphins, and Cardinals. And that brings up the Chargers at 22. How do I not go Michael Mayer? How do I not? Someone talk me out of it. I'll give you a second. Can't do it. I'm going Michael Mayer. Really awesome option at tight end. Gerald Everett's not going to be there forever. And Mayer probably even an upgrade long-term at the position. So makes a ton of sense. And then we get to my Giants at 23. Man, would Bijan be fun. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen with Saquon, but I would be really surprised to see Joe Shane take a running back in the first round. But at 23, Bijan is ridiculous value. Even for a running back. You won't hear me want to take a running back in the first round too often, but Bijan's a difference maker. Bijan's a difference maker. It's a lot better than taking a running back at 2, despite me being a huge Saquon Barkley guy. I'm not going to go running back. Giants have so many other needs. Corner is basically at the top of the list. Linebacker, certainly. Guard, certainly. The Giants have a lot of needs. Receiver, certainly. I know Giants fans here are going to want Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's good. He's good. The Giants have options. The board has fallen, I would say, fairly favorably for them. Like Brian Branch a lot. This is tough. Could reunite the Ojulari brothers. Of course, Aziz played at Georgia, but I mean, just like together in the same city. BJ Ojulari's good too. Probably would be surprising to see the Giants go edge here. I don't know what I want to do here. I really don't. Jared Verse is pretty sick. What do you do if you're the Giants here? I really don't know. I mean, corner is terrible, but I just don't love the corners available for the Giants. Clark Phillips is small. The Giants have a lot of small corners on the roster. Phillips is really good, though. I don't know. I think the Giants have missed out on a lot of the top corners. Devin Witherspoon might be the next one that I would consider at this spot. Feels like it'd be a bit early for Witherspoon, but not by that much. Garrett Williams is also really good. Jalen Jones is really good. The draft board is bad. Bad. DJ Turner is really good. What do you do here if you're the Giants? I know I've taken a long time on this. Usually I take a long time, but you guys don't see the entire process because I do everything in advance. I am going to go receiver so bad. It's so bad. Do they need a deep threat more than Jackson Smith and Jigba in the slot? I mean, we've seen some players like Jackson Smith and Jigba play really well recently. Amon-Ra St. Brown stands out. I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Giants need a reliable receiver. Like, I need water right now. That's how bad it is. Ravens at 24. I've given them Bijan before in this spot, but J.K. Dobbins is starting to look like old J.K. Dobbins. I can't do it here. I can't do it. But Bijan, I mean, dude, I don't think he's going to be available at this spot. I just can't find the fit. At 24, the Ravens need corner desperately. Desperately. Clark Phillips, really good. He's going to be the one. They need corner very badly. But I mean, a lot of teams do. Broncos at 25. See, I've given them tackle quite a bit here. Again, I don't really love the way the board looks right now. I've given them Cody Moak before. What do we do? Edge is not a need. Linebacker could be. I think I got to go tackle. I really do. Running back could be an outside shot here. You're concerned about, your stud running back, Javonte Williams, coming back from a huge injury. Do you really want to throw out Latavius Murray and Mike Boone? Bijan at 25, he's so sick. And it would be quite a duo. Bijan, great receiver, not really as much of Javonte Williams' game. I just don't think they can take a running back given their needs, but Bijan, I don't think he lasts this long. I'm going to keep saying it. I am going to go with Darnell Wright. Did not allow a sack this past season at Tennessee. Feels a little early for him, but it feels early for any of these tackles still remaining for the most part. He is our pick. Bengals at 26 also need tackle so badly. Corner as well, but also tackle. I'm gonna go with Matthew Bergeron. Was really good for Syracuse this past season. Someone that really came on the radar, for me at least, about midway through the year. Didn't know about him going into the year. And is just a good player. Does he end up being a first-round pick? Hard to say. I could see him sneaking into the second round. This feels a little rich, but they need the position badly. And a lot's going to change now from December to, April, late April when the draft happens. So who knows? Matthew Bergeron could end up being a first-round pick. So could Darnell Wright. I don't think it's super unrealistic, but I don't really think it happens right now. Cowboys at 27. I really think they could go Bijan at this point. Tony Pollard may not be there next season. He is a free agent. Zeke is aging, but he seems to be back to his old self. But they're running back by committee. Pollard and Zeke, it's a two-headed monster. Bijan would be quite the replacement. As a Texas fan and a Giants fan, man, I would hate that. Would really hate that. Love Bijan. But, would hate to see him go to the Cowboys. Running back is not necessarily the biggest need for them, but they're a good team overall. I think if you can't keep Tony Pollard, Bijan could be your guy at 27. The value is too good, in my opinion. Chiefs at 28. They have some interesting needs. I've given them edge a lot here. I think I'm going to continue to do that. Pressure is king. And Isaiah Foskey's on the board. He will be the guy. A lot of good edge rushers in this class. Lucas Van Ness is going back to Iowa. Braylon Trice is going back to Washington. Really good player. I didn't expect him to declare. That's why he's not made any of my first-round mocks. But, of course, he's going back to Washington. But he will likely be a first-round pick next year, in my opinion. Get to know the name. Braylon Trice. He's been awesome. Great combo with Zion Tupuola-Fatui. Zach Harrison feels a little bit low. Derek Hall feels low. KJ Henry feels low. Man, they got an interesting board. But Trice, I definitely agree with. I think he's even higher than this, but he is going back to UW. At 29, I've done this before, but I'm going to go corner, and I'm going to, of course, go with Illinois' Devin Witherspoon. And I don't mean Illinois as in Illinois, but pronouncing with an S, but I mean like Illinois, like apostrophe S, whatever. The Illinois corner, Devin Witherspoon, really good. Corner is a need for the Vikings. Plain and simple. Bills at 30. The Bills have options. Safety probably will be my option, and Brian Branch is too good to pass on. Can play nickel corner. Really, really good player. Moves all around the Alabama defense. I would not be shocked to see him go higher than this. Kind of reminds me of Dax Hill in a way. Dax Hill, I guess, went around this spot as well, but Dax Hill, really good. I like Brian Branch in a similar way. I love my DBs. Brian Branch, I think, is a beast. And then at 31, Antonio Johnson's so good. Don't know that the Eagles really need safety. They've had a couple of standouts. Miles Sanders is really good. We took a corner earlier. I think this is probably defensive line. I really do. Now, we could go with an edge. We could go with an interior player. Their edge rushers are good. Their interior players are good but older generally. Now, could Howie take a shot on a former, I believe, 5-star prospect in Javon Dexter? 5-star recruit to Florida. Has shown flashes. Not really altogether there as a pass rusher at this point, but would not surprise me if he developed in that regard. This would be a really formidable duo on the interior with Jordan Davis. We're going to go with Javon Dexter to close out the first round. It would not surprise me to see Javon Dexter go higher or lower than this. I don't know why these are the only options. Dude, what is this simulator? But that is my mock. I can't do either of these options. This website sucks. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.